6 months after the railgun battle, a new human ship arrived at Zerion Prime. The UES Constitution was twice the size of the Liberty and designed specifically for diplomacy. Unlike the Liberty's military appearance, the Constitution looked peaceful, with smooth curves and large windows. But hidden beneath its diplomatic exterior were 3 improved railgun systems, each more powerful than the weapon that had destroyed the Stellar Dominion. Ambassador Helen Carter stood on the Constitution's bridge as they approached the alien capital world. She was a veteran diplomat who had negotiated treaties between Earth's nations for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. She was about to represent humanity to an entire galaxy of alien civilizations. The journey to Zerion Prime had taken 4 months, but the real preparation had begun when the Liberty returned to Earth with news of their encounter. The governments of Earth had spent weeks debating how to respond to the Galactic Council's invitation. Some leaders wanted to show strength, others preferred caution, but everyone agreed that this meeting would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. Captain Mike Johnson commanded the Constitution. He was younger than Captain Collins, but had studied every detail of the Liberty's battle. "Ambassador Carter," he said as they entered orbit around Zerion Prime, "we're receiving landing instructions from the planet's surface. They're directing us to a special docking facility designed for diplomatic visits." Helen nodded and looked out at the alien world below. The planet's cities were enormous, with buildings that stretched kilometers into the sky. Ships from dozens of different species moved through the atmosphere, some using technology that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Remember, Captain," Helen said quietly, "we're here to establish peaceful relations, but we're also here to show that humanity is not afraid. The galaxy needs to understand that we can defend ourselves." The Constitution landed at a massive spaceport that could accommodate ships of many different sizes and designs. As Helen prepared to disembark, she reviewed her instructions from Earth's leaders one more time. Negotiate from a position of strength, but avoid making new enemies. Learn as much as possible about galactic politics and technology. Most importantly, make sure the aliens understood that attacking Earth would be extremely costly. Chancellor Zarabeth met Ambassador Carter at the spaceport with a ceremony unlike anything in galactic diplomatic history. Normally, new species were greeted with simple welcome protocols. But humanity had already demonstrated their military capabilities, so the reception was designed for a major galactic power. Hundreds of alien dignitaries lined the landing platform. Representatives from 47 different species had come to see the humans who had destroyed a Zephyrian warship with a single shot. Many of them had never seen a human before, and they studied Helen Carter with intense curiosity. "Ambassador Carter," Chancellor Zarabeth said as she approached, "welcome to Zerion Prime. Your species has certainly made an impression on the galactic community. We are honored to host these diplomatic discussions." Helen smiled diplomatically. "Thank you, Chancellor. Humanity is pleased to accept the Galactic Council's invitation. We hope these talks will lead to peaceful cooperation between Earth and all galactic civilizations." The formal ceremonies took most of the day, but the real negotiations began the next morning in the council chamber. Helen found herself sitting at a table designed for the galaxy's most powerful species, facing representatives who controlled entire star systems. It was intimidating, but she reminded herself that she represented the species with the galaxy's most feared weapon. The first topic of discussion was territorial rights. Every galactic civilization claimed certain star systems as their territory, and conflicts over boundaries had caused wars for centuries. Helen had been instructed to claim a sphere of space 50 light-years around Earth as human territory. 50 light-years is a significant claim for a species with only one inhabited world, commented the representative from the hegemony of worlds. Most species earn their territory through centuries of exploration and colonization. Helen had prepared for this objection. Humanity may be new to galactic politics, but we have demonstrated our ability to defend our territory. We believe 50 light-years provides adequate space for peaceful development while avoiding conflicts with neighboring civilizations. The aliens understood the implied threat. If anyone attacked human territory, they would face railgun weapons that could destroy their most advanced warships. After much discussion, the Council agreed to recognize human territorial claims. But the aliens were more interested in humanity's technology than their territory. During a break in negotiations, Chief Science Advisor Morden approached Helen with a proposal. Ambassador, the Andromedan Trade Alliance would be very interested in exchanging technology with your species. We could offer advanced power systems, shield technology, and faster-than-light communication in exchange for information about magnetic acceleration weapons. Helen had expected this request, but her instructions from Earth were clear. We appreciate the offer, but humanity is not ready to share railgun technology at this time. Perhaps we can discuss other forms of scientific cooperation. Similar offers came from dozens of other species over the following days. Everyone wanted to understand how humans had built weapons that could defeat Zephyrian shields. The Crystalline Collective offered to share their materials science in exchange for railgun blueprints. The Hegemony of Worlds suggested military alliance agreements. Even the Zephyrians, through their new representative Sub-Commander Vel Nash, hinted at non-aggression pacts. Dr. Emily Watson, the Constitution's science officer, attended technical presentations where alien scientists tried to explain their most advanced technologies. Ambassador, she reported after one session, their science is incredible in many areas. They have power sources that are far more efficient than our fusion reactors, materials that are stronger than anything we can make, and computers that think faster than human brains. But they've all focused on energy-based weapons for so long that nobody ever considered kinetic alternatives. Helen found this information fascinating. So we accidentally discovered something they overlooked. Exactly, Emily replied. It's like they've been having sword fights for thousands of years and we showed up with a gun. The principle is simple, but it never occurred to them to try it. As the diplomatic talks continued, Helen began to understand the broader implications of humanity's position. The galaxy was not a peaceful place. Different species competed for resources, territory, and influence. Wars were common, and military strength determined political power. Humanity had accidentally become a major player. In this complex system, the negotiations took 3 weeks, but finally all parties reached agreement. Earth would be recognized as a protected member of the Galactic Council with full territorial rights. Humanity would have access to galactic trade networks and communication systems. In exchange, Earth agreed to defend Council territory against external threats like pirate raids and attacks from hostile species outside the Alliance. The treaty signing ceremony was broadcast to hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. For the first time in galactic history, a species had joined the Council as a major power after demonstrating military capabilities rather than slowly earning recognition through centuries of peaceful contact. But as ambassador, Carter signed the documents that officially welcomed humanity into galactic civilization. She knew their position was fragile. The railgun had bought them respect and territory, but other species were already working to develop countermeasures. Earth had perhaps 10 years to build real defenses before their technological advantage disappeared. Captain Johnson received a message from Admiral Jake Harrison, who now commanded Earth's growing interstellar fleet. Tell the ambassador that construction has begun on 12 new railgun ships. We'll be ready for whatever comes next. As the Constitution prepared to return to Earth with news of the successful negotiations, alien scientists across the galaxy continued their research into kinetic weapons and defenses. The humans had fired their first railgun and accidentally conquered a galaxy that couldn't find words to describe what they had witnessed. But history teaches that accidental empires rarely last forever, and humanity's real test would come when the galaxy learned to fight back. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Sub-Commander Velnash's emergency message reached Zephyrian Command 3 days after the battle. Within hours, the information was being shared with military leaders on dozens of different worlds. An unknown species called humans had destroyed a Zephyrian flagship with a single shot. The weapon they used was unlike anything in galactic history. On the planet Zerion Prime, capital of the Andromedan Trade Alliance, Chancellor Zarabeth received the report during her morning briefing. She was a tall, blue-skinned alien with large black eyes and silver hair. Her people had been trading with other species for over 1,000 years, and they knew the military strength of every major power in the galaxy. "Are you certain about this information?" she asked her intelligence chief, a reptilian alien named Morden. Morden nodded his scaled head. The message came through Zephyrian military channels with maximum security encryption. They would not send false information about such an important matter. A human ship called the Liberty destroyed the Stellar Dominion in one attack. Chancellor Zarabeth stood up from her chair and walked to the large window that looked out over her planet's capital city. Millions of aliens from dozens of different species lived and worked together in the sprawling metropolis below. The peace between. These races had been maintained for centuries by a careful balance of military power. The Zephyrians were the strongest fighters, the Andromedans controlled trade routes, and various other species provided technology, resources, or specialized services. "If the humans can destroy Zephyrian warships so easily," she said quietly, "then everything has changed. We need to call an emergency session of the Galactic Council." The Galactic Council was a group of representatives from 47 different alien species. They met on Zerion Prime to discuss trade agreements, territory disputes, and threats to galactic peace. The council chamber was enormous, with seating areas designed for aliens of many different sizes and shapes. Some species breathed different gases, so each section had its own atmosphere controls. Within a week of the Liberty's battle, representatives from across the galaxy gathered for the most important meeting in council history. Species that had been enemies for centuries sat in the same room, united by their concern about this new human threat. Chancellor Zarabeth opened the meeting with a summary of what they knew. 3 weeks ago, a human ship encountered a Zephyrian patrol in the Kepler 442 system. The humans destroyed the flagship Stellar Dominion with a single projectile weapon. Analysis of the battle suggests the humans use a technology called magnetic acceleration to fire physical objects at extremely high speeds. A representative from the Crystalline Collective, a race of living crystal beings, spoke up. "What do we know about this magnetic acceleration technology? Could other species develop similar weapons?" Chief Science Advisor Morden consulted his datapad. "Our best analysis suggests the humans are using electromagnetic fields to accelerate metal projectiles to about 30% of light speed. The principle is simple, but the power requirements are enormous. Most species would need to redesign their entire energy systems to build such weapons." Meanwhile, the UES Liberty was still making its way back to Earth. The journey would take 3 months, and Captain Collins used the time to prepare detailed reports about their encounter. The ship's computers contained sensor data from the entire battle, including recordings of the alien weapons and shield technology. Dr. Nathan Price spent most of his time studying the debris from the destroyed Zephyrian ship. Even the small pieces they had collected showed technology far beyond anything Earth had developed. "Captain," he reported during one of their daily briefings, "the alien materials are incredible. Their hull metal is 3 times stronger than our best alloys, but also much lighter. Their power systems use some kind of controlled antimatter reaction that we barely understand." Chief Engineer Lisa Martinez was working on a different problem. "Captain, I've been analyzing the railgun's performance during the battle. The weapon worked better than we expected, but it also used more power than our design calculations predicted. If we want to build more railguns, we'll need to develop better power sources." Commander Jake Harrison looked over the damage reports from their encounter. "How many more shots could we have fired before losing all power?" Maybe one, Lisa replied honestly. Possibly two if we shut down life support and artificial gravity. The magnetic coils need enormous amounts of energy to work properly. Captain Collins nodded grimly. Then we were lucky the aliens retreated. When they did. If they had kept fighting, we might not have survived. Back on Zerion Prime, the Galactic Council was trying to decide how to respond to the human threat. Some species wanted to send military fleets to Earth immediately, before the humans could build more railguns. Others argued for diplomatic contact, to learn more about human intentions. A representative from the hegemony of worlds, a militaristic species with red skin and 6 arms, spoke angrily. We should destroy these humans before they become too powerful. If they can build weapons that defeat Zephyrian shields, they could threaten any of our worlds. But Chancellor Zarabeth disagreed. We don't know how many railgun ships the humans have built, or what other weapons they might possess. A military attack could be disastrous if they have more advanced technology than we realize. The debate continued for hours. Some species feared that humanity would use their railgun technology to conquer other worlds. Others worried that attacking Earth might provoke the humans into developing even more dangerous weapons. During a break in the discussions, Morden approached Chancellor Zarabeth with new information. Chancellor, our long-range sensors have detected the human ship Liberty heading back toward their home system. They appear to be traveling alone, which suggests they don't have a large fleet in this region. That's useful information, Zarabeth replied. But it doesn't tell us what defenses Earth might have, or how many railgun ships they could build in the next few years. The Crystalline Collective representative offered a different perspective. Perhaps we should consider the humans as potential allies rather than enemies. Their railgun technology could be valuable against common threats like the Dark Fleet raids in the outer sectors. This suggestion caused an uproar in the council chamber. The idea of alliance with an unknown species was almost unthinkable to most representatives. For centuries, the balance of power in the galaxy had been stable. New technologies were developed slowly, and no single species had gained significant military advantages over the others. Now, humanity had appeared with a weapon that could potentially change everything. Their railgun technology represented a completely different approach to warfare that most galactic civilizations had never considered. A representative from the Zephyrian delegation spoke for the first time. The humans destroyed our flagship without warning, without attempting communication. This suggests they are a hostile species that will attack any alien vessels they encounter. Captain Collins would have disagreed strongly with that assessment, but he was still 3 weeks away from Earth and had no way to participate in galactic politics. The Liberty's crew had no idea that their battle was being discussed by alien governments across the galaxy. As the council meeting continued, it became clear that no easy decisions would be made. Some species wanted to prepare for war against humanity. Others preferred to wait and gather more information. A few suggested attempting diplomatic contact to learn about human intentions. Chancellor Zarabeth finally called for a vote on the most important question. Should the Galactic Council attempt to contact Earth directly? The debate that followed would determine whether humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization would be peaceful or hostile. Unknown to the council members, their decision would also determine whether Earth would have time to prepare defenses against the advanced alien technologies that now knew about human railgun capabilities. In the depths of space, the Liberty continued, its long journey home carrying news that would change human civilization forever. The 3 alien ships belonged to a race called the Zephyrians. They had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 2,000 years. Their ships were fast, their weapons were deadly, and their shields had never been broken by any enemy. Admiral Kethvar commanded the lead ship, called the Stellar Dominion. He was a veteran of hundreds of battles against dozens of different alien races. From his command chair, Admiral Kethvar watched the primitive human ship try to fight back. The aliens looked like tall, thin humans with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, and they had no hair on their heads. Kethvar had lived for 300 years and had seen many young races try to challenge Zephyrian power. They all learned the same lesson in the end. "Sub-Commander Velnash," Kethvar said to his second-in-command, "what is the status of the human vessel?" Velnash studied the sensor readings on his screen. "Their hull is badly damaged, Admiral. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. They have fired dozens of explosive rockets at us, but our barriers stop them all. The humans should surrender soon." Kethvar nodded with satisfaction. This was how first contact always went with primitive species. The Zephyrians would disable their ships, capture some of their people for study, and then decide whether to destroy them or make them slaves. It was a system that had worked for centuries. The Zephyrian weapons were terrible to see in action. They fired beams of superheated plasma that could melt through almost any material known in the galaxy. They also had gravity weapons that could crush a ship's hull by making it incredibly heavy in just one small spot. No race had ever developed defenses against both types of weapons at the same time, but Kethvar was careful not to destroy the human ship completely. Young races sometimes had interesting technology that could be useful to the Zephyrian military. These humans had traveled between star systems, which meant they had at least some advanced science. Their ship design was strange, but seemed to work well enough. Aboard the Liberty, the situation was getting worse by the minute. Chief Engineer Lisa Martinez worked desperately in the railgun control room, watching power levels rise slowly on her screens. The weapon needed enormous amounts of energy to work, more than any other system on the ship. She had to take power away from life support, artificial gravity, and even some of the engines to charge the magnetic coils. "Lisa, how much longer?" Captain Collins asked over the communication system. His voice was calm, but Lisa could hear the stress underneath. "2 more minutes, Captain," Lisa replied, sweat running down her face. "The power grid is almost at its limit. If we push too hard, we might lose the main reactor." Lieutenant Commander Peter Hayes sat at the weapons control station, watching their conventional guns fail again and again. Every missile they fired exploded harmlessly against the alien shields. Every laser beam was absorbed without causing any damage. The aliens had technology that was hundreds of years ahead of anything Earth had built. "Captain," Peter reported, "all conventional weapons have failed. The alien shields are too strong. Whatever those barriers are made of, they can stop anything we have except the railgun." Meanwhile, damage control teams ran through the ship's corridors, trying to fix the holes that alien weapons had burned through the hull. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sarah Kim worked frantically in the ship's hospital, treating crew members who had been injured by flying metal and electrical fires. 30 people were hurt, but amazingly, no one had died yet. The alien ships continued their careful attack. They seemed to know exactly where to hit to disable the Liberty without destroying it completely. Weapon systems went offline one by one. The main engines were damaged but still working. The communication array was completely destroyed. Commander Jake Harrison stood beside Captain Collins on the bridge, watching the tactical display show more and more red damage indicators. "Steve, they're not trying to kill us," he said quietly. "They want to capture the ship." Collins nodded grimly. "That might be worse than being destroyed. We don't know what they do to prisoners." Amy Foster, still at her communication station, despite the sparks flying from damaged circuits nearby, looked up at the captain. "Sir, I've been trying every frequency, every language database we have, even basic mathematics. They won't respond to anything. Either they can't understand us, or they don't want to talk." Dr. Nathan Price, the science officer, was studying the alien weapons through the ship's sensors. "Captain, their technology is definitely more advanced than ours in most ways, but there's something strange about their approach to combat. Their weapons are energy-based, plasma beams, gravity disruptors, electromagnetic pulses. I don't see any kinetic weapons at all." "What does that mean?" Collins asked. It means they've focused all their research on energy shields and energy weapons, Nathan explained. Their defenses might not be designed to stop physical objects moving at high speed. Lisa's voice came over the speaker again. Captain, railgun is at 90% charge. I can fire now, but it won't be at full power. Or I can wait another minute for 100%. Collins looked at the damage reports streaming across his screen. Another alien weapon hit tore through the ship's hull near the cargo bay. They were running out of time fast. Can the ship survive another minute of this? He asked Jake. Jake studied the structural integrity readings. It's going to be close. We're losing hull sections faster than the repair teams can seal them. Admiral, Kethavar was becoming impatient with the human resistance. Most primitive species surrendered after the first demonstration of Zephyrian firepower. These humans were either very brave or very stupid. Increase weapon power, he ordered. Target their engine section. I want them disabled completely within the next few minutes. The Stellar Dominion's main plasma cannon began charging for a more powerful shot. The weapon could punch through the human ship's entire length if fired at full power. It would end the battle quickly. But Sub-Commander Velnash noticed something on his sensors. Admiral, the human ship is showing a massive power buildup in their forward section. Energy levels are off the scale. Kethavar looked at the readings with mild interest. Some kind of self-destruct device, perhaps? Or a distress beacon? Let them try whatever desperate measure they have planned. It will not matter. In the Liberty's engineering section, Lisa Martinez made her final preparations. The railgun was charged to 95% capacity. Not perfect, but it would have to do. She loaded a single tungsten slug into the firing chamber. The bullet was small, about the size of a coffee cup, but it weighed 50 pounds. When fired, it would move at 30% of light speed. Captain, Lisa announced. Railgun is ready to fire. Target locked on the lead alien ship. Collins took a deep breath. Everything depended on this one shot. If it failed, humanity's first contact with aliens would end in capture or death. If it worked, they might survive to return home and warn Earth about the dangers waiting in space. All. Crew, brace for railgun discharge, Collins announced over the ship's communication system. This is our one chance. Lisa, you have permission to fire when ready. Lisa's hand moved to the firing control. Around her, the massive magnetic coils hummed with barely contained energy. In a few seconds, humanity would test its most advanced weapon against an alien race that had conquered most of this part of the galaxy. The tungsten slug sat in the firing chamber, ready to be accelerated to incredible speed by forces that human science barely understood. What happened next would either save the Liberty and her crew or prove that human technology was no match for the powers that ruled the stars. Lisa Martinez pressed the firing button. The railgun made a sound like thunder trapped inside a metal tube. Every light on the ship flickered as enormous amounts of electricity flowed through the magnetic coils. The tungsten bullet, weighing 50 pounds but no bigger than a coffee cup, shot out of the cannon faster than anything humans had ever created before. The slug moved at 90,000 kilometers per second. That was 30% of light speed. It was fast enough to cross the distance between Earth and the Moon in just 4 seconds. The bullet was invisible to the naked eye, moving too fast for human vision to track. On the bridge of the Liberty, every crew member held their breath. Captain Collins watched the tactical display, waiting to see what would happen. The alien ships were still firing at them, still tearing holes in their hull. In a few more minutes, the Liberty would be completely disabled. Admiral Kethavar was studying reports from his weapons officers when his tactical officer spoke up. Admiral, the human ship has fired some kind of projectile. It appears to be a physical object, not an energy weapon. Kethavar looked at his screen with mild interest. Kinetic weapon? How primitive. What is the projectile's speed, Sub-Commander? Velnash checked his instruments twice before answering. His voice was confused. Admiral, the reading must be wrong. The sensors show the projectile moving at .3 light speed. That cannot be correct for such a primitive species. Check the sensors again, Kethvar ordered. There must be an error. But there was no error. The tungsten slug was indeed moving at incredible speed, carrying more kinetic energy than a nuclear bomb. It crossed the space between the ships in less than a second. The Zephyrian shields had been designed to stop energy weapons. Plasma beams, laser cannons, particle accelerators, gravity waves, electromagnetic pulses. For 2,000 years, the Zephyrians had fought enemies who used these types of weapons. Their defensive barriers could absorb enormous amounts of energy without failing. But no one in the Zephyrian military had ever considered what would happen if someone simply threw a piece of metal really fast. The tungsten bullet hit the Stellar Dominion's shields at 90,000 kilometers per second. The energy barriers that had stopped 1,000 different weapons from dozens of alien races simply couldn't handle the impact. The shields collapsed instantly, like a soap bubble popping. The bullet continued through the first layer of the ship's hull without slowing down. The advanced alien metal that could resist plasma temperatures of millions of degrees tore apart like paper. The slug punched through the second hull layer, then the third, then into the ship's main corridor. Zephyrian crew members had just enough time to see a flash of light before the bullet hit the ship's primary power core. The tungsten slug, still carrying enormous kinetic energy, struck the alien power source and released all its energy at once. The Stellar Dominion's reactor, which used controlled antimatter reactions to generate power, lost containment instantly. The explosion that followed was brighter than a small star. Admiral Kethvar, Sub-Commander Velnash, and the entire crew of 800 Zephyrians simply ceased to exist. The massive warship, which had survived battles against 50 different alien races over 3 centuries, vaporized in a flash of superheated plasma. Where the Stellar Dominion had been floating just seconds before, there was now only empty space and rapidly expanding gas. Aboard the Liberty, the crew watched their tactical displays in complete silence. Communications Officer Amy Foster was the first to speak, her voice barely a whisper. "Captain, the lead alien ship is gone. Complete destruction." Captain Collins stared at the screen, not quite believing what he was seeing. The enormous alien vessel that had been tearing his ship apart was simply no longer there. "Confirm that reading, Amy." Amy checked her instruments 3 times. "Confirmed, sir. The alien flagship has been completely destroyed. No debris larger than a few meters. It's like it just evaporated." Dr. Nathan Price looked up from his science station, his face pale with shock. "Captain, the energy release from that explosion was equivalent to a 20-megaton nuclear weapon. Our railgun didn't just destroy their ship, it turned their power source into a bomb." The 2 remaining Zephyrian ships stopped firing immediately. Sub-Commander Velnash, who had been aboard the second ship during the attack, was now the ranking officer. He stared at his sensors in disbelief. The Stellar Dominion had been the most advanced warship in the Zephyrian fleet. It had shields that could stop anything, armor that could resist the most powerful weapons, and enough firepower to destroy entire cities. The humans had made it disappear with a single shot. "All ships, cease fire," Velnash ordered his remaining vessels. "Retreat to safe distance immediately." For the first time in Zephyrian military history, their fleet was retreating from battle against a supposedly primitive enemy. Velnash had no idea how the humans had destroyed their flagship, but he knew his 2 remaining ships could not risk the same fate. Captain Collins saw the alien ships moving away from the Liberty and seized the moment. "Open communication channels. On all frequencies," he ordered Amy. "This is Captain Steve Collins of the United Earthship Liberty," he announced, his voice carrying across space to the retreating alien vessels. "Stand down your weapons and prepare for communication, or we will fire again." Collins tried to sound confident, but the truth was that the Liberty was in terrible condition. The railgun had used almost all their remaining power. Chief Engineer, Lisa Martinez had already reported that they could maybe fire the weapon one more time before their fusion reactor completely overloaded. Sub-Commander Vel Nash received the human message and faced the most difficult decision of his military career. The Zephyrians had never surrendered to anyone. Their empire was built on the idea that they were the strongest race in the galaxy, but they had also never faced weapons that could destroy their most powerful ships in a single hit. Send a message. To Zephyrian Command, Vel Nash ordered his communications officer. Priority 1, maximum encryption. Message reads, human species possesses weapons of unknown design capable of destroying Confederate warships with single projectile. Conventional. Shields ineffective. Request immediate tactical analysis and fleet reinforcement. The message would take 3 days to reach the Zephyrian home world, but Vel Nash knew it would cause panic in the military command. For the first time in their history, the Zephyrians had encountered a weapon they could not defend against. Meanwhile, aboard the Liberty, Chief Engineer Lisa Martinez was conducting damage assessment on the railgun system. Captain, she reported over the communication system, the weapon performed beyond all design specifications. The magnetic coils are damaged but functional. We can fire maybe one more shot before we need major repairs. Commander Jake Harrison looked at the tactical display showing the 2 alien ships maintaining their distance. Do you think they'll try to attack again? Captain Collins considered the question carefully. I don't think so. They just watched us destroy their flagship with one shot. They're probably trying to figure out how we did it. Dr. Nathan Price was analyzing the debris field left by the destroyed alien ship. Captain, I'm detecting some interesting readings from the wreckage. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours in most areas. Better power systems, superior materials, more efficient engines. But they seem to have focused entirely on energy-based weapons and defenses. What does that mean for us? Collins asked. It means they've never encountered anything like our railgun, Nathan explained. They've been fighting the same types of battles for so long that they never considered other approaches to warfare. We accidentally found their weakness. Amy. Foster looked up from her communication station. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from the alien ships. They're using some kind of faster-than-light communication system to send messages somewhere else in the galaxy. I think they're calling for help. Collins nodded grimly. Then we need to get home as fast as possible. Earth needs to know what we've discovered out here. The galaxy isn't empty, and it isn't friendly. As the Liberty began preparations for the long journey back to Earth, the crew realized that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, but they had also made enemies of an advanced alien civilization. The railgun had won them this battle, but it had also started a war that could determine the future of the human race. In the depths of space, Sub-Commander Vel Nash continued to study the readings from the destroyed flagship. Somehow, the primitive humans had developed a weapon that could defeat Zephyrian technology. That information would reshape military thinking across the entire galaxy. The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES Liberty. Commander Jake Harrison stood by the main window and watched them shine like tiny diamonds against the black sky. He had dreamed of this moment since he was a boy reading about space, travel in old books. Now here he was, 3 months into humanity's first trip to another star system. The Liberty was not a small ship. It stretched nearly 2 miles from front to back and carried 800 crew members. Earth's best engineers had spent 20 years building it. The ship had everything humans needed to explore space for years: food gardens, water recyclers, machine shops, and even a small hospital. But the most important thing on the ship was something most of the crew hoped they would never need to use. In the lower decks, Chief Engineer Lisa Martinez worked on humanity's greatest weapon. The railgun was as long as a football field and could shoot metal slugs faster than anything humans had ever built before. The weapon used powerful magnets to push tungsten bullets at incredible speeds. When Earth's leaders planned the mission, they insisted the ship carry the railgun for protection. Many people thought it was unnecessary, but Jake was glad they had it now. The ship's mission was supposed to be simple: travel to the Kepler 442 system, look for signs of alien life, and return home with data. For 3 months, they had found nothing but empty space and dead rocks. No radio signals, no cities, no spaceships. Just silence. Amy Foster sat at the communications desk, listening to static from dozens of different radio frequencies. She had been doing this job for 3 months without hearing anything interesting. Amy was starting to think they would return to Earth with nothing to show for their long journey. Then something changed. "Commander Harrison?" Amy called out, her voice excited. "I'm picking up energy readings from the 4th planet. These aren't natural signals, sir. Something made them." Jake walked over to Amy's station and looked at the screen. Strange patterns of energy were coming from Kepler 442, a cold planet twice the size of Earth. The signals were weak but clearly artificial. Someone or something was using advanced technology down there. "Captain Collins to the bridge," Jake announced over the ship's speaker system. Within minutes, Captain Steve Collins arrived, along with several other senior officers. Steve was a calm man who had commanded ships for 15 years, but Jake could see excitement in his eyes. "What do we have, Amy?" Steve asked. Amy pointed at her screen. "Energy signatures from the 4th planet, Captain. The patterns suggest advanced technology, much more advanced than anything we have on Earth." Dr. Nathan Price, the ship's science officer, studied the readings carefully. "Captain, these energy levels are enormous. Whatever is down there uses power sources we can barely imagine. This could be our first contact with an alien civilization." Steve nodded slowly. "Set course for the 4th planet, full sensor sweep. As we approach, I want to know everything about what we're dealing with before we get too close." The Liberty turned toward the distant planet, its engines humming quietly. The crew was excited but nervous. First contact with aliens had been humanity's dream for centuries. Now it might actually happen. As they got closer to the planet, the energy readings became stronger. The signals were coming from the dark side of the world, hidden from the system's star. Whatever was there didn't want to be seen easily. 3 hours to planetary orbit," reported Lieutenant Peter Hayes from the navigation station. "Should I signal our approach, Captain?" Steve considered this carefully. "Not yet. Let's observe first and see what we're dealing with." But the choice was taken away from them. As the Liberty rounded the planet's largest moon, 3 massive ships appeared in front of them. The alien vessels were unlike anything humans had ever imagined. They looked like they were made of crystal and metal fused together, with smooth curves and no visible weapons. Each ship was at least 3 times larger than the Liberty. "Contact?" Amy whispered, staring at her screens in amazement. For a moment, both groups of ships just floated in space, studying each other. Jake felt his heart beating fast. This was the moment that would change human history forever. First contact with an alien race, then everything went wrong. Without any warning, without any attempt to communicate, the alien ships opened fire. Beams of pure energy, unlike anything humans had ever seen, struck the Liberty's hull. The weapons seemed to twist space itself, tearing through the ship's armor like it was made of paper. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. The lights flickered as power systems overloaded. Jake felt the deck shake under his feet as explosions echoed through the hull. "Battle stations!" Captain Collins shouted. "All hands to battle stations! This is not a drill!" The peaceful exploration mission had become a fight for survival in seconds. The alien weapons were incredibly powerful, far beyond anything Earth's military had prepared for. The Liberty's shields, which could stop meteor impacts and energy weapons, flickered and failed under the alien assault. "Return fire!" Steve ordered. "All weapons, engage the enemy!" The Liberty's missile systems launched their payloads at the alien ships. Dozens of nuclear-tipped rockets streaked toward the enemy vessels. But when they hit, nothing happened. The alien ships had some kind of protective barrier that made the missiles explode harmlessly against invisible walls. Lisa Martinez's voice came over the communication system from the engineering deck. "Captain, our conventional weapons aren't working. Their shields are too strong. I need permission to charge the railgun." Steve looked at Jake, then at the damage reports flooding in from all over the ship. They were losing this fight badly. The aliens seemed to be playing with them, like a cat playing with a mouse before killing it. "Do it," Steve said grimly. "Charge the railgun. It's our only chance." In the engineering section, Lisa and her team began the complex process of powering up humanity's most advanced weapon. The railgun needed enormous amounts of energy to work properly. It would take several minutes to charge the magnetic coils to full power. Meanwhile, the alien attack continued. More hull breaches opened up across the ship. Emergency crews rushed to seal the holes and rescue trapped crew members. The Liberty was dying slowly, piece by piece. "Captain," Amy called out, "I'm trying to send a surrender signal, but they're not responding to any frequency. I don't think they want to talk." Jake watched the tactical display as another section of the ship went dark. "How long for the railgun?" "Lisa?" "3 more minutes!" Lisa's voice was strained. "The power systems are overloading, but I can get you 1 shot. Maybe 2 if we're lucky." "Make it count," Steve said quietly. The alien ships moved closer, their weapons tearing apart what remained of the Liberty's defenses. It seemed like they wanted to disable the human ship completely rather than destroy it quickly. Maybe they planned to study it or capture the crew, but they had made one critical mistake. They had given humanity enough time to charge its most powerful weapon. As the railgun's capacitors reached full power, Lisa Martinez prepared to show these aliens what humans could do when their backs were against the wall. The next few seconds would determine whether humanity's first contact with aliens would end in disaster or victory.